Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everybody. Pasta Jardula here.
And I'm Fiorella.
Jonny Sue spinning on the ones and twos. And we want to thank everybody who's been joining our Rokfin. Those numbers have been growing. In fact, fam, it looks like they opened up the faucet back up on the YouTube. We've had an influx of subscribers over the weekend. Thank you very much for joining up. A few new Patreons out there. People hitting us up on our PayPal. I can't thank you guys enough. This is awesome that you're helping us out and doing this. It's great. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We love doing this. And you guys do make it possible. So, since you guys always help us out, we're going to help you out. We went out there and got somebody big, somebody known, somebody we kind of talk about on the Convo Couch all the time. You know her, ladies and gentlemen. Whitney Webb is with us. How you doing, Whitney?
Hey, I'm doing good. Great to be here.
I'm sorry I didn't go too crazy and over the top like I normally do. It's kind of like a mellow Monday right now with stuff going on because I think there's a lot of kind of differences of opinion out there. We see a lot of people on the left talking about this election like, oh, Donald Trump's getting these cases thrown out. This is just silly. He should just kick it over to Biden without really ever addressing the issues within this election. And then you got Rudy Giuliani getting ready to set his case and go on par and do what he talked about when he had his press conference the other day. You know, most people want to make fun of the hair dye going down, but he focused on the fact that these ballots were not scrutinized. And you've been doing a lot of report when it came to the PARASCRIPT and the AI machines. We, in fact, went to Pomona where they have the mail-in facility. We saw all the ballots going. So my first question to you is this. It's a multiple choice question. A, ready? A, Biden won fair and square. B, it was stolen for Trump. Or C, this is all kabuki theater, something else bigger is going on, and Whitney Webb is going to tell us what it's all about.
Oh, man. All right. I'm going to have to go somewhere between B and C. I think there was election fraud that took place, but I don't think it was to steal it from Trump. I think, and I've been reporting about this for like over a year, it was gamed out for the 2020 election to have there be chaos, to have there be no clear winner, and to have like this complete chaotic scenario between the election and Inauguration Day. And I think what happened is that they didn't, all this different scenarios they gained out through like the Transition Integrity Project and other groups required that it be a close election, that it had to be like relatively tight, like it was either a narrow Trump win or a narrow Biden win. No one could have won by a landslide and allow all of that planned chaos to take place. So I think they had to make it closer. And I think that's why all of these indicators of something weird going on ended up taking place. Because, I mean, like, if you just look at the enthusiasm, right, for either Biden or versus Trump in the rallies, I mean, Biden couldn't even attract like 12 people at most events. Obama couldn't even attract that amount of people when they rolled him out. And even if you want to use the excuse of the pandemic and coronavirus, you had like a live stream not that long before the election with Kamala Harris and Bernie Sanders, and you had less than 2,000 people tune in live. I mean, Jimmy Dore and people like that get more people live on YouTube than that live stream got. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, so it's like, I honestly, you know, I mean, there's a lot of different, you know, I didn't follow everything that's gone on in terms of the counts and all of that super closely, but there are a lot of indicators, and there have been for years, that Silicon Valley is trying to take over the election system. And this has advanced in a huge way in this election. So people on the left ignore these indicators at their own peril, because Silicon Valley hates progressives just as much as they hate Trumpers or Trump or whatever, right? So, I mean, you think about the people that rigged it against Bernie this year. I mean, it was people like LinkedIn's founder, Reid Hoffman, who was Biden's biggest donor. And all of that Silicon Valley money on the quote unquote left was behind Biden during the primaries. And, you know, they do not like progressives. So, I mean, people that are just like want to dismiss all of this because, oh, well, it means Trump lost. I mean, you're really doing yourself a disservice, I think.
Wow.
Absolutely. I mean, she just said it right there. How much did this, going to your article now, because we did break it down a few weeks ago, but how much did these AI systems, PARASCRIPT, play a part in the validation of signatures to these mail-in ballots, especially in seeing in the swing states?
Well, so we don't know, actually, because PARASCRIPT won't say how pervasive their software was used, but we know it was used in places like Clark County, Nevada, and some other places that were really contentious. And what's interesting is that there's no federal or national, like regulation over how that type of software is used. So it's up to the individual county to determine how much human oversight there is for these things. And there were several where it's like they just let the AI validate and they don't really check at all.
Yeah.
1% or less of all ballots they approve. And this AI system had never been used for mail-in ballots ever before in any other sort of election. It was just announced in May, and they were like, all right, we're going to roll with it. And there was like no scrutiny about this. And this is a company that's had deep ties with Silicon Valley giants for decades, Microsoft and Apple, and are particularly close to Lockheed Martin, which is a huge contractor to the U.S. Postal Service, which, of course, with mail-in ballots, super involved in that, right? And Lockheed Martin, of course, is like at the heart of the military-industrial complex, was also involved in setting up the CIA's In-Q-Tel, so they're tied to intelligence. They also have ties to Cybereason, which is the Israeli intelligence front company, really, that was simulating 2020 election chaos for like 2 years, right? So, like, I mean, it's just really ridiculous. And I also think it's really telling too that you have people on the right talking about how this was rigged and all this stuff, and they won't look at this company. Why not? I think that's a little weird too. Like there's some of these indicators, I think, about how the Trump people or whatever aren't really serious about challenging certain aspects of things that threaten the integrity of U.S. elections, because I think this was pre-planned, and this is sort of a pre-planned chaos scenario we're seeing that was gamed out really by both sides, Republicans and Democrats, to the benefit of oligarchs that, fund both parties, really. So,
interesting point too, because the only area I think these the machines are really up for grabs when it comes to the 6 states they're going after is Nevada. So I don't know if they're just backlogged and they haven't got to these machines yet. But that is the whole point of this election, where they're trying to upturn it. It's the scrutiny with the signatures of the ballot. And I think that the Democrats tipped their hat off in the HEROES Act when they tried to take that amendment out, saying they less verification on the signatures, but it was shot down. And it's so funny that you wrote about this here. We actually saw a machine like this in California, in Pomona, and it was just sending these ballots through, sending them through. There was no scrutiny whatsoever. Now it's like at the height of everything, they're going to try to make a case on these ballot signatures. But how much, and once again, I think this is still a long way from being over. More than likely, I think we'll see Joe Biden become the president. But what does that mean for independent media groups? Because, you've worked with The Last American Vagabond. You've experienced censorship. What does it mean for censorship for independent media people like ourselves and yourselves if Joe Biden does get into the White House?
Well, I think censorship's going to be bad regardless of who gets in the White House. But with Biden, I think it's just going to be out of control, because basically the force that you have behind Biden, you have the neocons on the Republican side, you have the national security state, you have the Silicon Valley oligarchs. It's worth pointing out, talking about the DNC. The DNC is totally fused with Silicon Valley. All of their top tech officials, their chief technology officer, their chief security officer, their chief information security officer, all come from Facebook. They come from Google. They come from all of these places, right? So the DNC and Silicon Valley are essentially the same. You also have the national security state and the intelligence community fusing essentially with Silicon Valley as it relates to artificial intelligence stuff. You have all these Silicon Valley companies like Microsoft and Google being major government contractors to the military, to the intelligence community, Amazon too. So, this is really the force that's backing Biden. I mean, Biden is just, the person that they marched out. That's, the public face of that entity, really. I call it a blob, because it's really what it is, all of these different groups that have come together. And so Silicon Valley, you've already seen, right, what those companies like to do when it comes to censorship. And so, you're going to have those different groups come together. I mean, they're not going to want the kind of scrutiny that independent media can, offer, right? And I wrote about this more recently. Basically, there's this company that the military has contracted, and this is going to be implemented at some point next year. They're called Primer AI, and basically they're an AI algorithm that basically deplatforms and takes down news, and it's being developed by people who developed counter-terror tools to combat ISIS propaganda, online, and now they're weaponizing that against people in independent media now. And at the same time, you have the Five Eyes Alliance being led by UK's NSA equivalent, GCHQ, declaring cyber war basically against news websites who produce content they don't like. And that they're not just going to deplatform the sites themselves, they're also saying that they will scramble the communications of the people who run those sites so they can't set their site back up. And that was also stuff they allegedly used to target members of ISIS, and now that's being weaponized against independent media. I mean, it's absolutely out of control. And the fact that we can see them setting that up now, they're not just setting that up for fun. I mean, they plan to use that. So I think it's definitely, we're going to be seeing a lot more censorship going forward. So people like us are going to have to get a little more creative, but definitely our days are very numbered on the mainstream, Silicon Valley platforms, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all of that stuff.
I feel that way too.
Yeah. So going off of all of that, right now they're talking about shutting down again. And California, Gavin Newsom actually issued a curfew from 10 to 5 a.m. And then he issued another one where he's closing down restaurants again. And I can't tell you how horrible that is for a lot of people working for these restaurants and businesses, and of course the small business community. But aside from all of that, we're seeing this push to social distance, keep away from people, stay at home, while these oligarchs get to go to the gym, get to go to fancy dinners, get to go to Hawaii.
Totally.
So what is going on regarding AI and COVID that and also the civil unrest that may or may not happen depending on how this election goes in the next few weeks?
Well, I think they're conditioning people for neo-feudalism is what I like to call it, because basically this whole thing of like Gavin Newsom can go and eat dinner and not have to wear a mask and can, this sort of, these rules are for the little people and not for us. I mean, I think that's really telling, and I think that's just going to continue. And this is trying to condition a lot of people in the public to just, do as you're told type of stuff. I mean, I think not that long ago, there was like Fauci or whatever saying Americans like their freedom, but now you just have to buckle down and do what you're told. The last people we should be listening, just doing what we're told by is, the national security state and Silicon Valley oligarchs and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
What's going on behind the scenes with AI is very alarming. You basically have Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, running the AI modernization policy of the entire national security state. And what those people believe, they're called the National Security Commission on AI, and they have a lot of power, is that the only way to maintain the U.S.'s military and also economic hegemony in the world is to basically force an extreme shift in how the American economy works by moving in a huge way towards automation and the implementation of AI, in order to maintain that hegemonic role to keep America number one. And that is all these people care about, is being number one and maintaining the power for them and maintaining the status quo. There's no way they're going to put this stuff to a vote or ask like the average American's opinion, right? Do you want your jobs to go away and be given to robots forever so we can beat China and, have a better economy, be a market leader and all of this stuff? I mean, obviously people would say no, and they don't care, right? So basically, Eric Schmidt in the middle of October said, we have to win this at all costs. That's a direct quote, at all costs. So what does that mean? Well, basically, if you're going to be shutting down the economy, all these small business, medium-sized businesses can't weather the storm, especially at this point. So they're going to be shutting down. All of that business is going to be going to, just think about like small shops or something. All that's going to go to Amazon, right? And so Amazon's just going to get bigger and bigger. And, all the shopping is going to be online, and then they can use, automate everything. Jeff Bezos for years has wanted to put robots in the warehouse. And now they can say, oh, well, because of COVID, it's actually healthier and safer to not have people in the warehouses. We'll just have robots do everything because robots can't get sick and spread the virus and all of this stuff, right? So, a lot of the stuff they wanted to see implemented, and they were planning all these changes to the economy and how we had to remake the American economy for AI. They were planning all of this out last year. I reported on this back in April on some of the documents that they were, throwing around, and it's just really it's really unsettling. And I think a lot of people are, ignoring this at their own peril too. Like people saying the quote unquote Great Reset or whatever isn't a real thing, when it's really the same agenda I just laid out, but on a global scale. But the people implementing it in the U.S. are this National Security Commission on AI, people like Eric Schmidt and Bob Work, who used to be the Deputy Secretary of Defense under Obama. He's part of the Biden transition team. So you can kind of guess how that's going to go, right? Yeah. It's not good at all, because it's a recipe for the complete really erosion of privacy and civil liberties in the U.S. AI requires an extreme increase in surveillance, basically. So it'll just be I mean, it's not a future anyone really wants if they spend the time to think about it.
Yeah. Last question, Whitney. We'll get you out of here. What do us humans need to do? The plebs, the small people. What do we need to do to stop this? I mean, at what point are we at right now? I mean, because it's kind of surreal looking at this election where we're at right now and everything we're going through. But everything else you've been talking about, we've been paying attention to. What do we do as humans to stop this? The people, we the people.
Okay, we need to starve these Silicon Valley assholes of our data. They want us to wear like wearables, like Amazon just came out with a new one, the Fitbits and all of that stuff. Don't use that stuff. If you have to use a smartphone for your job, okay, but there's things you can do to divest a little bit from this technology that's harvesting you for data. These people like Eric Schmidt see you as data to be harvested, essentially. So, one way to fight against that is to, deprive them of your data to the greatest extent you possibly can, without causing obvious, economic harm or whatever to yourself. It's also really important that we start getting local, sort of unplug a little bit from screen world and just, having all of our interactions and our protests or whatever being online. I mean, all of that stuff, we have to come back to the real world for a little bit, build community, at the local level, and really try and decentralize as much as possible from this extreme centralization that's being dominated by the national security state and Silicon Valley oligarchs to the greatest extent possible. And we also need to remember, especially with what's going on in the election, I mean, in my honest opinion, I mean, this is a complete psyop to have us Trump supporters mad at the Biden supporters, and we're going to be arguing about who's doing the coup, and Democrats are saying Trump's trying to do a coup, and Republicans are saying, the Democrats are doing a coup. I mean, that is clearly having you yelling at your neighbor while we're ignoring the oligarchs that are trying to basically screw us all over and make us, hurt us into like feudalism, right? Which is not something anyone wants.
Yeah, that's a real coup. That's a real coup.
I still think we need to eat 100%. One of them. We have to eat an elite, couple elites, praise them up. You know what I'm saying? I'm a vegan, but we'll eat the rich. Whitney, thank you so much for coming here with us and sharing all your knowledge. You do some amazing work. Yes. Can you tell everybody where they can find you? We know we've had some problems with the last American Vagabond getting shut down and whatnot.
But they're on Rokfin, right?
They are on Rokfin, right? Yeah. So.
Yeah. I'm also on Rokfin, and I have my own website, unlimitedhangout.com, and my Rokfin channel is also called Unlimited Hangout, so you can find my stuff there. For now, I'm on Twitter for the time being, but I'm also setting up, accounts on all the alternative social media platforms. I'm on Telegram right now. Unlimited Hangout has a Telegram channel you can sign up for and follow. In the meantime, and I'll be adding more over time, because it's really time that we start, trying to diversify a little bit in terms of how we reach people online. We can't depend on these Silicon Valley platforms anymore.
That's awesome.
100%. Thank you so much, Whitney. We appreciate you.
Thanks. Thank you, guys.
Bye. Wow.
Fam, are we going to get to eat one of these rich people? Because I want to eat, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have a craving for meat, and Nancy Pelosi braids might be the recipe.
No, you can have all that. I mean, I will cook them for you and crap, but that'll be the only time I'm cooking. But yeah. But I'm not putting that vile poison in my mouth. No, I mean, you saw what she said. I mean, she's right in line with what I think. I think this is all a big psyop. I think we're being set up for the real coup, which is the oligarchy against us, the we the people. Because if you notice, like the more they try to say, the more people like Sidney Powell are vilified or whatever, put out this way. She's the only one that was talking about the machines in depth, and that is one thing that we're going to talk about in a minute. It's weirding me out. Like, she's the one that was talking about that, and then all of a sudden, like, everybody's like, oh, well, she's crazy, she's cuckoo, even people on the right. And I'm just like, wait a minute, she's talking about the machines and election fraud. Like, so we're discounting these people. We're making them sound like conspiracy theorists, but some of the things they're saying are true. Now, who's behind this? That's the thing that I don't trust. I don't necessarily trust that there are people at the very top who are going to let this happen. I think there are people on both sides who do want truth, like us. You know, we're on, I mean, I'm on the left, you're on the left. Like, we want the truth, and I think there's people like us who want the truth, but I think people in power would stand to lose so much if the machine issues ever get uncovered. Like, it would just affect people on both sides of the establishment, and I don't think they're going to let that happen. And so I think we're in a really shitty situation because most of our friends and a lot of the people we know are completely like, oh, yay, we got rid of Trump. At least let me be happy for a little bit. And, you know, and now people are waking up in these last couple days to the fact, I don't know how they forgot that Joe Biden was going to fill his administration with Silicon Valley executives, with everybody from the NSA, CIA, Wall Street, and all these lobbyists. And people are like, gosh, Biden, how dare you? It's like, hello. We told you this was going to happen. This is why we were like, oh my God, this is like the worst case scenario right now.
Yeah, mitigating damage is what they said, fam. And when you're talking about his cabinet members, people from big tech, Silicon Valley, and warmongers, so why not a Secretary of State?
Exactly.
You get somebody who worked in Silicon Valley and is a warmonger. You get two bells with one shot. You know what I'm saying? And that is Tony Blinken. And I really do. I want to echo. We got some. Dan Cohen here, right? Well, Danny Haiphong is the first one he put up there. Biden has named Tony Blinken his Secretary of State. Blinken was a key shoring up Democratic support for the Iraq invasion and instrumental in the U.S. role in the regime change wars in Ukraine. That's when I first heard about him. Libya and Syria. We are back to smart wars, and they are no less deadly. And once again, fam, that's that crypto kind of fascism, that fascism with a friendly face. Tony Blinken is like a nice speaking gentleman. He sounds good. But at the end of the day, his suggestions and his solutions are war, war, and war.
100%. I mean, it's crypto fascism, right? Like you just said, it's a friendly fascist face. It's a lot more difficult to fight that because you don't see it coming. We might know about it, but the vast majority of Americans who were like, yay, we have a woman that is VP for the first time, are not understanding who this guy is and what his record is. And it doesn't help when the vast majority of the progressive movement has been co-opted to cheer him on, too. So.
Yeah, they always say they're mitigating damage. I don't know. I thought mitigating damage would have been to get Trump through for another 4 years until we can get our shit together on the left and come with a real solution and stuff. But the real solution wasn't to digress back into Joe Biden. I think we saw Whitney Webb even said like, no. Like, that's not like mitigating damage. That's not something you should be happy with. And she said her answer was between B and C. Somewhere between they stole it from Donald Trump and somewhere between there's this possible plot to pin us against each other. Yeah. And what better way to do this? I mean, we all thought by the end of the night when we were coming off the air, fam, that Donald Trump had won this election. And it appeared that way. Then all of a sudden in the morning it wakes up, it's Biden. That's going to piss off those Trump people to no avail. So let's get back to Tony Blinken real quick because Blinken is now one of the choices. And listen to this. Dan Cohen has done some good stuff out there. He put some shit out there the other day. I love it when Blinken talks about the local actors that he's going to support. That was the same thing that Barack Obama said, moderate rebels. Remember that? Take a look. Or take a listen. Yeah.
As for ending the forever wars, Tony Blinken says not so fast.
Large-scale, open-ended deployment of large standing U.S. forces in conflict zones with no clear strategy should end and will end under his watch. But we also need to distinguish between, for example, these endless wars with the large-scale open-ended deployment of U.S. forces with, for example, discrete, small-scale, sustainable operations, maybe led by special forces, to support local actors. In ending the endless wars, we also have to be careful not to paint with too broad a brushstroke.
So Biden will end the forever wars, but not really end them. Secret wars that the public doesn't know the U.S. is involved in, those are here to stay. As for ending the forever wars...
So, there you go. Local actors again. Yeah, local jihadists is who they support. Yeah. And once again, they give this element, we're just sending in special forces, Green Berets, Navy SEALs, not the real troops, whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. but he's always been about pushing more war in every single situation he's been involved with. Like I said, I first recognized him, this nice speaking man, and he's worked for the Clintons, he's worked for Obama, he's worked for Biden for many years. He's their nice, friendly face of war, fam.
He's a perfect neocon for the Democratic Party because he's not like outright telling you that he wants full-on war like a Pompeo or a Bolton, but he's doing it behind the scenes in a very cryptic way in motions that will ultimately lead to huge warfare. I mean, it's the crippling sanctions. You're talking about droning. You're talking about small targeted attacks, but these attacks have consequences, and unfortunately you don't get to see that as visually and as obviously when it's somebody doing it in this way, and then it turns out to be in the end far worse.
Yeah, and who we support, once again, we're supporting jihadists. In the case of Ukraine, we were supporting actual friggin' neo-Nazis. Here's some more stuff from Ben Cohen. Dan Cohen.
Arm the so-called moderate rebels. He became Obama's point man on Syria, pushing to arm the so-called moderate rebels that fought alongside Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and designed the red line strategy to trigger a full-on U.S. intervention. Syria, he told the public, wasn't anything like the other wars the U.S. had been waging for more than a decade.
We are doing this in a very different way than in the past. We're not sending in hundreds of thousands of American troops. We're not spending trillions of American dollars. We're being smart about this. This is a sustainable way to get at the terrorists, and it's also a more effective way.
This is not open-ended. This is not boots on the ground. This is not Iraq. It's not Afghanistan. It's not even Libya. And the more people understand that, the more they'll understand the need for us to take this limited but effective action.
Despite Blinken's promises that it would be a short affair, the war on Syria is now in its 9th year. An estimated 500,000 people have been killed as a result, and the country is facing a famine, largely thanks to the policy of using wheat to apply pressure, a recommendation of Flournoy and Blinken's CNAS think tank. When the Trump administration launched airstrikes on Syria based on mere accusations of a chemical attack, Tony Blinken praised the bombing, claiming Assad had used the weapon of mass destruction sarin. Yet there was no evidence for this claim, something then even Secretary of Defense James Mattis admitted.
I cannot tell you that we had evidence, even though we certainly had a lot of media and social media indicators that either chlorine or sarin were used.
While jihadist mercenaries armed with U.S.-supplied weapons took over large swaths of Syria, Tony Blinken played a central role in a coup d'etat in Ukraine that saw a pro-Russia government overthrown in a U.S.-orchestrated color revolution with neo-fascist elements agitating on the ground. At the time, he was ambivalent about sending lethal weapons to Ukraine, instead opting for economic pressure.
We're working, as I said, to make sure that there is a cost exacted of Russia, and indeed that it feels the pressure. That's what we're working on. And when it comes to military assistance, we're looking at it. The facts are these. Even if assistance were to go to Ukraine, that is very unlikely to change Russia's calculus or prevent an invasion.
Since then, fascist militias have been incorporated into Ukraine's armed forces, and Tony Blinken urged Trump to send them deadly weapons, something Obama had declined to do.
Yeah.
He pushed for his boys in Israel to do it. They did it in Israel. They sent him weapons, fam. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. This is just the moderate rebels that Vanessa Beeley and Eva Bartlett were talking about when they were exposing them in their work. And it's interesting because this definitely ties into the white helmets and how all these people were funded by these by us and by the West to arm these neo-Nazi groups. And of course, when this came out, everybody wanted to avoid that story to protect Joe Biden. So if you're not seeing the connections, here they are. I mean, this is what's going to happen, and this is why people in Syria are actually scared of a Joe Biden presidency, because they see this type of administration coming in and pretty much doing the same kind of cryptic targeted warfare, which it's like playing chess. When you're playing chess, it's like you can make an obvious move, but that might not be the best move you need to make down the road. If you make tiny cryptic little moves, eventually you can have a checkmate, and that's kind of the operation of the neoliberals. Don't laugh because
you're a good puppy. Listen, she's a good chess player, and I know because so many times I'm like, oh, I got her, and then she's coming around the back end. I'm like, oh shit, I didn't see that coming. We didn't finish our one chess game that we didn't play, but let me just tell you something. I was nervous. I'm glad she didn't pick up the game because she was like a couple moves away from really getting me in trouble. Yeah, I know what you mean and stuff like that. So be careful if you try to play chess with Fee. She knows how to play chess. A lot better than her brother. Sorry, Johnny, I didn't mean to say that. That was wrong. Johnny can play. All right, so let's talk about the next part I put up over here. Tony Blinken is also in the pocket of big tech. And you best believe this asshat will suppress our civil liberties while fingering a new boogeyman as an excuse for mass censorship. It's kind of what Whitney Webb just told us. The same tools they were using for Al-Qaeda, ISIS, they're going to somehow swing them around against you. So here's a tweet that I put up. It says, per this 2017 Fast Company piece, Biden's reported choice for Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, has advised both Facebook and Google. Fam, why don't we get a big tech warmonger in there for Secretary of State? Kill two birds with one stone.
Yay.
But others caution against engaging in too much finger pointing on this issue. Tony Blinken, the former Deputy Secretary of State and National Security Advisor under Obama, who now advises Alphabet and Facebook, we talked about Mr. Schmidt, contends that the problem ultimately lies with Russia, not Silicon Valley. The tech platforms have to do better to defend against malicious actors. But let's not lose sight of the forest for the trees, fam. The problem is Russia and other actors who use our openness against us, not the platform, Blinken says. The biggest mistake we can make is to get into the circular fingering squad with the government, the firing squad of the government, fingering and firing, and the tech companies. The only winner in that scenario is Russia. So you see the language. Let's not get into it with each other. That's what Russia wants. Yeah. It's not about the platforms. They're fine. Zuckerberg and Dorsey, they're doing a good job. This is about other people bringing in disinformation, and it's the Russians. So we have a Russiagating going back in as the Secretary of State if, in fact, this election stands.
Yep. And it's really bad because it's like, if you think about it logically outside of your political ideology, thinking that a foreign country is more dangerous, a foreign country like Russia, who really they would have to spend a lot of money. They don't have the ability necessarily to do, or the desire necessarily to do this, to really get so involved in our elections or in anything we're doing, than Silicon Valley, who is literally funding politicians. They're literally giving millions of dollars to people like Joe Biden and certain people on both sides, but a lot to this Joe Biden administration thus far. And you think that Russia is the danger. And who's telling you that? The people who work for Silicon Valley. It's like a bank robber telling you that they're not going to rob your house and that you need to go look outside and blame the other person that's out there instead. That is how ridiculous it is. And people need to get outside of this whole McCarthyism that has been pretty much pushed down their throat. And that's both Democrats and Republicans, because the whole socialism and communism thing is a part of that. And so we just have to stop with that and look at what's going on in our own house.
Yeah. Johnny, I think I put the wrong tweet up there for Matt Duss right now. I just went back and put it into the folder if I didn't get the right one. If you go into the folder real quick, I'm so sorry. There's a small tweet right there, that one right there. Fam, when we were talking about the Bernie Sanders campaign, we talked a lot about foreign policy. One of his foreign policies, we would say this name, it just disgusted us all the time. His name was Matt Duss, right?
Yes.
So Matt Duss just put up here, this is a good choice. Tony has the strong confidence of the president-elect and the knowledge and the experience for the important work of rebuilding U.S. diplomacy. Here we are, fam.
Yeah.
Once again, Matt Duss praising these type of guys. Yep. This is Bernie Sanders, one of his number one foreign policy advisors. We've mentioned his name so many times.
No, it shows. Remember when we were, it was Bernie was running and we learned who it was and we were like, oh, this guy? I mean, he went from somebody like Tulsi Gabbard to this guy. It's just it was really bad. And we were like, oh, let's see what he says, But with the Russiagating and with the whole just no nuance in a lot of the foreign policy in the Middle East, we could tell that it was bad. I mean, it just goes to show you that you will never run a true grassroots campaign when you hire people at the top who are establishment politicians or establishment consultant types. It's just not going to work. They're going to self-sabotage you and your entire campaign. And he's not the only one, right, fam?
No, because we have other people from the American for Center of American Progress.
Center for American
Thank
Progress.
Thank you, Nina Tanders, whatever.
Nina
Tanders, freaking little goons. Fayez, right? Another one. We talked about Fayez, and all his is he was Bernie Sanders' campaign manager. He puts it up there. Solid choice. Leaders around the world will assume that when Blinken speaks, he speaks for Biden.
100%. And this is the chickens coming home to roost. Like, this is like, I remember getting attacked for saying, hey, Faiz isn't good. He's doing this and that. Like, he's not, he's establishment, Center for American Progress. And these are the people that were ready to cash their next check for whoever it is they worked with. They want to be a part of the establishment. They are a part of the establishment. They want to move up in the political ladder. And it shows in their choices that they've done since the Bernie Sanders campaign. Whereas, somebody like Nina Turner is starting a podcast and, going on Movement for the People's Party streams and just doing her thing. You got people like Faz and people like Matt Duss who are completely just immersed in this political establishment, pushing Joe Biden flat out front to the core, talking, not just pushing him in a way, well, you have to vote for him, but saying like, oh, this is great. This is good. It's good that we have the security state and the NSA and the military industrial complex now coming in full force. I thought we were going to do better than Trump, right? No, was never going to happen.
I mean, these were Neera's boys, and they came from the Center for American Progress. We were screaming this at the top of our lungs, saying this is wrong. Why does he have these people with them? Pushing away Tulsi Gabbard for these people. And Nina Turner just had on Tulsi recently. Yeah. And they talked about the complex. I mean, I love the way Nina Turner calls it. It's the complex, and having those discussions about how foreign policy affects our domestic policy. And that's what we need to be talking about. So it was a great podcast the other day, seeing these people go out there for Tony Blinken. It doesn't surprise me one bit. Right. Now, fam, this is the kind of mentality, this is the shit we have to talk about right now, because this last clip I have off of Tony Blinken, he actually went on Sesame Street to talk with Grover, because he talked about refugees with Grover, because you know why? He's created so many of them. That's why. Here's Tony Blinken with Grover.
Sir, may I ask you a question?
Hi, I'm Deputy Secretary Tony Blinken from the State Department.
Wow, you have a long name. Mine is short. I am Grover. I am from Sesame Street.
Well, hi there, Grover.
Yeah, hi. I am trying to find the big Un building. And it is so confusing because, well, untied means not tied, and unhappy means not happy. So building must be not a building. And I have been looking and looking everywhere, and I cannot. What does an Un-building even look like?
No, Grover. It's not the Un building. It's the UN building. UN stands for United Nations, a place where nations or countries from all over the world come together to cooperate on important issues.
I knew that.
This is the week that all nations come together. It's called the General Assembly. And one of the issues we're going to talk about is something really important. Refugees.
Oh, Deputy Secretary Tony Blinken from the State Department. I know all about refugees.
You do?
Of course I do. They are the ones who wear striped shirts and blow whistles at soccer games.
No, Grover, that's referee. I'm talking about refugees. These are people who've had to leave their homes because life in their countries was not safe for them. Grover, can you imagine how difficult it would be to have to leave your home?
No, I cannot. I would never want to leave Sesame Street. I cannot imagine leaving my apartment or my pet turtle Rufus behind.
Well, Grover, sadly, refugees have to leave everything behind. Communities, schools, friends, even all of their favorite things. And all kinds of people are refugees. And even though they come from many different places, they're just like you and me.
Oh, like my friends on Sesame Street. We are all different in some ways, but in a lot of other ways, we are the same.
That's right. And we all have something to learn and gain from one another, even when it doesn't seem at first like we have much in common.
I know exactly what you mean. For example, I am cute and fuzzy and blue. You, on the other hand, well, you are cute enough, I suppose, but not very fuzzy, just on the top of your head, and you are not blue at all. But I like you, Deputy Secretary.
All right.
Wow.
Ready? Wait 1 second. Fee rant, take one. Go.
This is just fucking disgusting. That's the end of my rant. I mean, this is just fucking disgusting. Like, we are literally, what is that word you say? We are God, we're forming kids. We're indoctrinating kids with this idea that we need to trust these people that are warmongers, neocons, like tied to the security state. Let's trust in them and let's put them on a kids fucking show where kids are learning, especially when they're young. You absorb all this information and you're like, oh, the UN is good. Oh, and this guy, he's the secretary of the state, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is the indoctrination into our kids. This is why a lot of people on the right end up saying, oh, Hollywood is full of blah, 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 because it's like there is an element of brainwashing that happens at the core. I mean, if you remember what you were watching when you were kids and what they made us watch, it was like, a lot of that is just forming you in your head. Like, it's disgusting.
Programming from the get-go, it's just terrible. It's just, I mean, this is kind of disgusting. And I knew when you saw this, it was like, can you believe this shit? Somebody from the State Department, the guy who created so many refugees, this asshole, they're just like you and me, these poor refugees. And that's what they do. These neocons, whether they be on the left or the right, the establishment on both sides, they're disgusting. And this guy is disgusting. And this is what you call leftists out there mitigating damage? This right here? Okay, this guy is more of a Warhawk than goddamn Donald Trump. Literally, and he's so cryptic about it. Oh, we have to do this, we have to do that. We have to help the locals. He's got the same language that Obama had. The moderate rebels. We have to help the people there fight in their own land. No, you're supporting jihadists or people who want to overthrow the government for your geopolitical gains.
It's more psychopathic too, because you're literally pretending to do good. And like, I'd rather have somebody that's an asshole tell me, yeah, we're gonna go and attack these people, than somebody pretending that they're doing good and brainwashing people into thinking it's all good. Because he's talking to these kids right now, but that's the same words and the same crap they use on people on mainstream media. Oh, everything's great. We're just going to help these people. We're going to spread democracy and blah, blah, blah. So people are like, oh, okay, everything's great as the house is burning down. And that to me is far more dangerous and a dangerous opponent than everything else that we've seen.
Yeah, and that's why I think so many people on the left were duped and beeping their horns when Biden was supposedly the president-elect by the AP. Osla Fave, thank you for the super chat contribution. It's always appreciated on the couch. The Convo Couch. You are the press. Damn it. Thank you. We are. Thank you so much. Oh, wait. Let me get my screen over there. I saw another super chat contribution. Fam's got a great section coming up. Where was the other super chat? Oh, it was Osla Fave again. Do you want to bet Biden will not replace Ajit Pai? That's a good one. Well, listen, he was first recommended, I think, by McConnell to Obama, and then Obama appointed him. Trump let him stay there.
There you go again. I mean, you see, like, there's no difference. I think a lot of progressives at their core think that Democrats are better. Yeah. And I can tell you that they think that because they're pushing, I'm getting texts about, oh, you have to help us win this Georgia Senate race. It's like, it's a neoliberal. This person is a terrible candidate. You want me to stand behind a corporate funded Wall Street type of neoliberal just because like the other person's a Republican? I'm done doing that. I don't talk to me about that shit. Like, people promoting the Georgia Senate races, I'm sorry, you're getting duped still. There's no reason why you should promote a candidate just because they're a Democrat. And that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, and there's supposedly an audit coming in Georgia right now. They verified the results because that's the law that Kemp has to do, but he's under a lot of pressure right now to go back and check the signatures. That's something they didn't do. They found about 900 more votes for Donald Trump, so the lead shrunk. But a lot of stuff still going on. I'm getting a lot of messages from people down there with the whole system and what's to take place. So let's just put our seatbelts on and see what comes. Wisconsin's got the audit. Wisconsin matches up the mail-in ballots to the actual recommendations of the mail-in ballots, who requested them. In other words, you can't get a mail-in ballot unless you requested it. So they're going to go through that process and matching it up. So I expect something to fall. The dominoes maybe in Wisconsin. I heard they extended an expedient appeal for the Trump campaign today. So in other words, they're going to look at their appeal and expedite it. So we'll see what's going on. We'll talk more about that. But let's stay on this establishment coup thing situation, fam, because the left, these people, like we said, they really do believe that they hired somebody better. And what you just pointed out, too, as well, I'm not going to fall for the left-right paradigm anymore. And I think that you've been kind of drilling it home when it says it's the establishment. I have to identify the establishment on the right now because I've been looking so much on the left because I stem from the left. I was mostly an independent, a non-PP,
non-party preference,
preference and whatnot. But at times I joined the Democratic Party to support Bernie Sanders, to support Tulsi Gabbard. So my ideology has always been on the left, but I'm not going to fall for it anymore because the left has been taking over some core issues that used to be leftist issues, like protection of our civil liberties, like making sure we have free and fair elections. Because let me tell you something, it was all leftists that were complaining about these elections before this situation came along with Donald Trump. It was all leftists. It was small pockets of people on the left going, this is not right. Our election systems are fucked. We have to fix this. We have to throw the corporations out. We can't have proprietary software. We have to have everything good when people go to vote. It can't take 7 hours. Let's fix this. It was all leftist. Mm-hmm. So now you just see what's going on, and it's just kind of crazy. But let's please into your, I put it up there for you, the establishment coup.
All right. So the real coup, and that's what I was trying to get at when Whitney Webb was talking, was that the establishment is pushing a coup against us. It's the establishment in general. It's not a left-right thing. It is a top-down thing that's actually happening. And we need to stop this fear-mongering about Donald Trump and the elections, because I'm just so sick and tired of people saying, well, Donald Trump is not going to leave. Donald Trump is going to, he's pushing this coup. So I wanted to kind of push back on what Walker Bragman.
Who names their kid Walker?
Walker Bragman said, I voted for Biden in the general to barely get rid of the guy currently trying to subvert the popular vote and pull off a coup via state legislatures. I think that was a good decision. But yeah, Biden is exactly who the left said he would be, and that's on his primary backers. Okay, so I'm going to push back on the fact that you voted for Biden because you thought it would be better, because it's not better. And we need to get off of that mentality that voting for a Democrat is better just because they're a Democrat, or because you've followed the mainstream media narrative that they're so much better. They're essentially the same thing, except one is waving a rainbow flag and the other one isn't. But that's, other than that, they're essentially the same thing. And the Democratic Party spent 4 years trying to impeach Donald Trump, and they did impeach him, but trying to oust him off via a coup with Russiagate, right? Mm-hmm. And asking for this recount, doing an audit, and looking into our election systems is not a coup. It's any candidate's right. Candidates here do it as well. And it doesn't matter how you feel about Donald Trump. That's his right. I don't care. That's his right. And the real coup is the security state, Silicon Valley, and corporations against we the people.
Yeah.
So
that's what Whitney said.
That's what, and it's just like, I hate it when people fearmonger and are using this whole thing, and it's progressives. I mean, Walker is considered a progressive by a lot of people. Cenk is considered a progressive by a lot of people. A lot of these people who are considered left progressives are pushing these mainstream media neoliberal narratives that you literally do hear on CNN. And to me, that is so detrimental, because we're putting fear and emotion onto people, and we're pushing people to react based on those low level wavelengths. So Joe Biden,
yes,
this is the thing that pissed me off the most.
This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
Joe Biden said, here's the deal, because President Trump refuses to concede and is delaying the transition. We have to fund it ourselves and need your help. If you're able, chip in and help the Biden-Harris transition. Are you serious? You can't ask your billionaire lobbyists, your millionaire lobbyists, your NSA, your CIA, your Silicon Valley people to fund you? It wasn't enough that they manipulated all the mainstream media, that they manipulated all of the big social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook, and that they took down the New York Post, that they made journalists have to resign from The Intercept because they were protecting Joe Biden. Now it's not enough that he has millions of dollars left. He still has a lot of money left. It's not enough. No, you have to ask the people in the middle of a fucking pandemic when you've given them $1,200.
Nothing.
And that's it. Yeah. And they just still don't have health care.
Yeah.
We're the only country that's not receiving a monthly UBI. If I show you right now how much Australia, Canada, all these countries, even in Eastern Europe, are giving their people, and we're getting absolutely nothing, and you have the fucking audacity to ask for money from people who can't even pay their rent, who can't feed their families, who are losing their jobs, and now Gavin Newsom is closing down restaurants yet again.
Outdoor restaurants.
How dare do you have the fucking capacity to ask people for money, you piece of shit? Like, I'm just so done. And how are you gonna tell me, progressives, that this is any better than Donald Trump? In what world do you live in? What little fucking rose-colored glasses do you have on that this is somehow better? Look what's going on. This is disgusting. I am so angry that this even happened and that people aren't outraged and that people like Walker are making this, well, I voted for Biden just to pat yourself on the back, right? Oh, because I thought it was a good decision. I still think it was a good decision. But yes, he is who he said he was. Yeah. Well, no shit.
It was just his vote was one giant. By the way, that's a fee rant. Yeah, there's a fee rant clip that went up. It was just one big virtue signal. That's all it was, a vote for Biden. Really, you weren't changing anything.
It's a virtue signal.
It was a big, giant virtue signaling. You thought you were doing something good. We argued this left and right. I've had debates with people. Oh, we're mitigating damage. If you're mitigating damage, you're not going to let the establishment take back over. You're not going to move back the progressive movement another 10 fucking years. And that's exactly what you did. And all I can do is I can't stop hearing Malcolm X yelling in my over my shoulder going, "Chumps! Y'all are a bunch of chumps." And this shows you right here. He's asking you for money in the middle of the pandemic while you got no jobs, on lockdown at home, no UBI, one check in over 9 months. You're a chump.
Chip in now.
Chump. Yeah, I mean, seriously, he's asking for money.
That is the greatest grift right here. For all those of you who like to throw out that word, grifter, there's your fucking grifter. There's Joe Biden. The Democratic Party are the biggest grifters, and you fell for their grift. If you voted for them, you are chumps, like Malcolm X said.
Chump, because you're a chump.
And of course, the Democratic Party, the establishment on both ends, of course, in general, uses the media to manipulate and divide and polarize people. So there's this, I wanted to bring this up right here. And Brian McDonald said, if you've ever wondered why most US, UK media coverage of Russia is garbage, take a look at this job advertisement from the New York Times. It's pretty clear that any applicants who would like to cover Russia objectively and fairly won't be considered. And here, and that's partially why things are the way they are. So let's look at the job application. I mean, I'm totally applying. Job description: Vladimir Putin's Russia remains one of the biggest stories in the world. It sends out hit squads armed with nerve agents against its enemies. Most recently, the opposition leader, Alexei Navalny. It has its cyber agents sow chaos and disharmony in the West to tarnish its democratic systems while promoting its faux version of democracy. It has deployed private military contractors around the globe to secretly spread its influence. At home, its hospitals are filling up fast with COVID patients as its president hides out in his villa. Isn't that what's happening here? Not Russia? If that sounds like a place you want to cover, then we have good news. We will have an opening for a new correspondent as Andy Higgins takes over our next Eastern Europe bureau chief early next year. We are eager to hear from those interested in taking on one of the most legendary postings at the Times, a seat occupied by the likes of Bill Keller, Serge Schmiemann, Hedrick Smith, Clifford Levy, and Ellen Barry. We are looking for someone who will embrace the prospect of traversing 11 time zones to track a populace that is growing increasingly frustrated with an economy dragged down by corruption, cronyism, and excessive reliance on natural resources. What? This posting offers a chance to chronicle the continuing reign of one of the world's most charismatic leaders, President Vladimir V. Putin. This beat also covers the incredible diversity and variety of the lands of the former Soviet Union. The correspondent can range from Estonia, with its close ties to Scandinavia, to Kyrgyzstan, which has close ties to China. Not to mention, Putin ushered in changes to the constitution, so he will likely stay in power for many years to come. This is the what they start with when they're trying to put out a job advertisement for a correspondent in Russia. This is the kind of neo-McCarthyism that these people use. And this is the New York Times. The New York Times, aren't they one of the reliable resources for the elections? Aren't they one of the reliable resources for people to look at on foreign policy? Aren't they the best news source with wonderful journalism. This isn't journalism, you guys. That's a propaganda. That's propaganda. And the people they hire have to agree to spread that propaganda or they will never be hired.
Yep.
It is disgusting.
They were talking about the description of what you have to do in the job description. If you're not of that mentality, you can't work and get that job. And fam, I don't think you're allowed to have that job, being that you're an ex-girlfriend of Vladimir Putin. They will not allow you to have the job.
Who said X?
X? Oh, wait.
We're still
you're still talking
Jesus
here and there?
Christ,
I gotcha. AOC, you have this Twitter up here. This is the co-option of the progressive movement. You know, and I just want to point out right quick before you go on this one, fam, that it is still, whether you believe that Biden won this fairly or not, we should still be talking about the framework of these elections and areas where they are vulnerable and areas where we need to fix them. The fact that you're just trying to sweep it under the rug and move on is disgusting, and it starts with the squad. Because, you know, I saw a lot of people when it came to, like, you know, on the floor of the Senate, when it came to the floor of the House, that I said, well, this is what the squad needs to be doing. These are the angles they need to be taking, but it's obvious to me that they're part of the co-option of the movement, or they've buckled down and they've given up. So I would never even trust these people ever again. So.
Yeah, let's just hear what she has to say. She basically said, we're going to organize and demand that Joe Biden, the administration, which I believe is decent and kind and honorable, keep their promise. Okay,
decent and kind.
Let's just hear what she says.
This is just ridiculous.
We have worked with the Biden administration to secure commitment on a $2 trillion climate plan. $2 trillion. But we're not going to stop there. We're not going to stop with a piece of paper. That's not what's going to happen. We're not going to forget about that agreement for the sake of an election, are we? No. What we're going to do is that we're going to organize and demand that this administration, which I believe is decent and kind and honorable, keep their promise. So that's what our next move is to make sure that the Biden administration keeps its promise, kept its promise to young people, kept its promise to the movement for Black Lives, kept its promise to communities and working class people across the United States of America. That's our message today, to keep your promise. And so we know that we don't just make that demand and walk away. We have to organize for it. We have to bring the heat for it, because there's a whole lot of people that tried to just shove a bunch of money before this election to try to buy their seat at the table. But we organize for ours, and we're not easily going to let that go. So our demand here is to make sure that we keep this promise, that we follow through on a visionary, absolutely unprecedented $2 trillion plan that's not just about money, but also it's one of the first presidential plans to honor the treaty rights of Native people. They're one of the first rights to make sure that we have environmental justice front and center. So that we make sure that we make up for redlining, that we make up for Flint, that we make up for Baltimore, that we make up for lead in the pipes across this country. So that's what this movement is all about. I want to thank you. And I don't want anybody here to think that we're not winning. Because let me tell you something, we're winning.
No, you're not.
It's working.
No, you're not.
It's happening. And we are going to secure a future. We're going to secure the basic tenets of a Green New Deal, a multi-trillion-dollar jobs program for climate, for environmental, racial, gender, and class justice. That's what the Green New Deal is, and we will stick to that plan. So thank you all so very much.
Okay, so if you're hearing this and you don't know anything about anything, yeah, it's going to sound, oh, look, she's saying she's going to push on Biden and they're going to fight and they're going to get this done. The reality is, if you notice, a lot of the things she said, although they sound good, they're not specific. They're not detailed. She repeated the amount of money a lot of times because, oh, we got this huge sum of money. But what is going to be allowed to happen, AOC, with that sum of money is not a Green New Deal or anything that actually resembles the truth, because Joe Biden is owned by lobbyists of you know, these oil. He's owned by these people that have these interests that's who he responds to. There is no way he's going to respond to what people have said. He has said how many times that he's not going to ban fracking. He has said he would veto Medicare for all. He has said he's not going to push anything like the Green New Deal. Why are you, instead of telling the people, the Joe Biden administration has not committed to anything that we want. So You know what? We're going to need to protest. Meet me here Wednesday at 6 p.m. We will go and we will demand that Joe Biden hear and adapt the things that we need right now, especially during a COVID crisis. these are the things we need. Blah, 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 blah. That's what needs to be done. Not platitudes. It sounds so good. This is what we're going to do. We're going to fight. Yay. Let's all feel good. But there's nothing there saying that this is what is actually going to happen. You're giving people false hope when they need actual tangible actions.
Yeah, and it's all about policy, right, fam? What policy are we going to get out of this right now?
There's no policy.
It's virtue signaling once again. It's making people feel good, people who just don't look at the nuance of the situation.
Right.
If Joe Biden was going to do anything for the progressives, he would have already started appointing people that are progressively friendly with their policies, a Green New Deal, whatnot. Instead, he's hiring big tech people, warmongers, the same people for the, the foreign policy for Obama or Biden, and I like to call it, not. He's putting them back into place. So you've been duped. And to me personally, fam, I think that this type of language, this type of kind of sheep herding of sorts, I think it is more dangerous than ever before, because you're not getting anything from it. Yet AOC is making you feel like they're holding ground and they're putting their stake in the ground. They're not doing anything. They're allowing Joe Biden to do whatever he wants, and then they're turning around and asking you for money.
She's talking also about like Flint and stuff. The guy, Joe Biden, just hired the freaking asbestos lobbyist, for crying out loud. You think these people are going to really care about the drinking water when they privatize these industries? They kept money from cancer patients. You think these people are really, who jacked up the price of insulin, are really going to let this happen, AOC? How are you going to fight when you have no power and you've given them all your power and you're not using the power of the people? You have it. I don't understand. This is just, it's really
I just want to say one last thing before you get to this next tweet real quick, too. When you talked about the lead in the pipes, Biden bragged about the endorsement from Schneider and the Lincoln Project, and that was the governor who was in charge of when the water went bad and he switched the water source in Flint and poisoned those people. He openly bragged about that endorsement. I'm sorry, fam.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, it's like, it's ludicrous to think that these people are going to do anything for us. And
real quick. Underneath that tweet, there was like more tweets, and it has Joe Biden's tweet. I pledge to be a president who seeks not to divide but unify. It's all these like neoliberal tweets like underneath that that AOC video. So here's Sarah Cooper's like, if Twitter can slap a warning on Trump's tweet, they can turn off the retweet button on them. If you know it's false, why do you continue?
Wow, more censorship.
Who is she, by the way? Do you guys know who she is?
No.
I guess she's a comedy person. Buttigieg is like, the president-elect should receive intelligence briefings, not just a courtesy, but as a matter of national security.
Right.
There's some spook shit. Dan Rather's like, as names of Biden's cabinet choices start leaking out, it seems his approach to staffing his administration will be a tad different from his predecessors. Experience and proven competence instead of nepotism and sycophancy.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, when these powerful elitists people are saying that Joe Biden's hiring great people, that tells you that that tells you to be very scared of who he's hiring. And all you have to do is a quick Google search to know that all the people he's hiring are absolutely disgusting. But use DuckDuckGo instead.
Eric Schmidt, right? Alphabet, please.
Yeah, Alphabet, exactly. And another thing that they're doing, and you kind of noticed it too with AOC, is that they're putting this whole spin on this, we have the most intersectional, unprecedented, diverse LGBTQ administration. Yeah, sure, have an intersectional fascism. That's what we have right now. And this is Caitlin Johnstone really laying it out. There's never been a better time to be a woman, minority, or a member of the LGBT community who works in the DC establishment and loves dropping cluster munitions on children.
Yes.
I mean, hey, if you're a woman of color and part of the LGBT community and you want to drop bombs on kids, now is the time for your career. Please step up to the plate because you're winning. That is the fucking brainwashing. All this does, you guys, is play into the right, hating these people, hating like actual, ignoring actual issues that are happening race-wise, ignoring actual issues that are happening when it comes to discrimination of trans people or LGBT people, because you're making a mockery out of it by saying that just because of their identities now, the bombs being dropped are going to feel any different on the countries we invade. That is how stupid it sounds, and that's how you polarize and drive people away from caring about these real issues, because you make them light. You dismiss them. You dismiss actual issues regarding people of color when you put the label and the stamp and lead with identity politics that's empty, and when you dismiss war and foreign policy just because a woman of color is now going to be dropping bombs on people. I mean, we had Gina Haspel Like, okay, so what? So that's supposed to make me feel good that she was a woman?
Bloody Gina.
Yeah, it's
Bloody
disgusting.
Genie.
And look,
and they started the Republicans, Democrats, the dropping the bombs. It's so true because I mean, and we saw this when Bernie Sanders announced his run.
Yeah.
We saw somebody in particular, not mentioning any names. Oh, Fayez Shakur is the first Pakistani American to be the leader of a head of a campaign, and this is the most diverse whatnot. It doesn't make a difference if their ideology is pro-war, pro-censorship, doesn't care about our elections, doesn't care about the working class, is just going to virtue signal all the time, go out there, really not hold their own party's feet to the fire when it comes to policy. We say this all the time. It's not about the Democrats and the Republicans stopping the Democrats. It's about the Democrats stopping the Democrats. Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House. She can bring bills to the floor if she wants to and let the Republicans vote it down and send it over to the Senate if she wanted to. She won't put Ilhan Omar's bill on the floor. Will Ilhan Omar ever call her out about the rent forgiveness? No. So what are we doing right now? December is right in our rear view mirror, not our rear view mirror, right in front of us. We're driving into December. We have no solution when it comes to rents. We don't know what we're going to do. All the small moratoriums are just about to expire, and there's no way out of this thing. Business is not going to be business as usual, and they've done nothing. So if they wanted to do something, they would put a bill on the floor and let the Republicans shoot it down, but they're not doing that.
They're not doing anything. And so what we're seeing is a focus. Let's focus on the fact that Kamala Harris is the first woman of color VP, and blah, 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 so we don't focus on her fucking record. Yeah. That's all it is. It's a distraction, and it's not like I would love to see more women in politics, but for the right reasons.
The right
not
woman.
Not because they're just going to drop bombs or continue the status quo establishment narrative. Like, that doesn't make me happy. That doesn't cheer. It doesn't make people abroad who we attack and who we sanction and who we bomb any happier. It's just like Elizabeth Warren's green bombs. That's definitely going to make people feel a lot better. And it's just it's disgusting. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, well, you hit it on the nose. And I mean, we said this was listen, I'm sorry. You say more women. I didn't want Sarah Palin getting the White House. I just didn't want it happening. So it's all about the person's ideology, their politics, before their identity. And I think that's the most important thing. It's not that we don't want more diverse people out there.
We do.
If there's a diverse choice for the right reasons, the ideology and the policy positions is what matters most, because the policy positions are going to determine the bread and butter things we get. You know what I'm saying? Will we get this or we won't get that? It's on the table bullshit, and that's what we need. We don't need the virtue signaling that you better promise us that you're going to do this just in thought, just to get out there and go rah, rah, rah. We want policy on paper that's going to affect our lives and help.
They can promise you the world, but that doesn't mean they're going to give it to you. And the reason I go after, and a lot of people have asked me this, and I might do a rant at some point, but the reason I go after Democrats, that we go after Democrats more, and we point out progressives more, well, faltering than Republicans, is because I don't have to tell you how bad Republicans are. They tell you how bad they are. They tell you flat out where they're fall.
Honest about their ideology.
I don't have to go. I will criticize. We have on the show multiple times criticized the right when it's something that people may not know, when it's something, okay, like this is what they're doing. They're flat out lying and they're doing this. Yeah. But the danger is really here on the left, because these are the people that are keeping us from actually fighting the ideology of the Republican Party, when we have to fight the Democratic Party too. And then when we have progressives that are supposed to go in there and fight the Democratic Party, they're not doing that. So I have to point out, look, this is like what they're not doing. They're taking any ammunition away from what could be used of working together. That's not happening. So I have to call it out, because that's the more dangerous enemy, the one pretending to be your friend and pretending to hurt you. So that's why.
And when we started the show, it was after 2016, the whole thought process is we're going to cover the Democratic Party. We're going to watch the reformation of the Democratic Party. We're going to see progressives take it over, move their ideology that way. But it didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? And so, I counted on the left to reform, to be more like my ideology, you know what I'm saying, to represent me. But it didn't happen that way. Instead, they co-opted, they changed, and they've actually gotten progressives to vote against their own interest and to push policies and ignore ideas. Like when it comes to our civil liberties and right now the election integrity, they've got them duped. So it's quite scary. Talk about, fam, something to dupe people.
So just, again, the other part of this is the mainstream media. This is part of the coup against the American people. This is a tool that they're using to get people to believe in propaganda narratives and pretty much regurgitate. I know when somebody watches mainstream media because they regurgitate everything that the CNN and MSNBC says. It's the same. I can tell. It's the same exact talking point. And it's really scary to see people who I thought were progressive start regurgitating these same media talking points just because they hate Trump so much. Let's just look at this video, because is a really eye-opening video that you've probably seen.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities, Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about trouble and trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Could we have gotten one in there? We should have put ourselves in there. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. I mean, it's funny because they're all talking about fake news and blah, blah, blah. They're the fake news. Sure, a lot of people put out things there that are completely false. But when these people try to push leftist, independent truth as fake news, that's why they're doing that, because they're like, it goes against their narrative and they want to psyop you and get you to believe that the real truth is fake news and the fake news is the truth, and that's what they're doing. And that's part of this whole thing, this coup against the American people. They're using the media, they're using the faux progressive movement, they're using the NSA, the CIA, the manipulation of the Silicon Valley executives, and Joe Biden's presidency of ousting the horrible orange man bad, and then coming in with all of this pro-war, pro-big tech, all this money behind him, supported by those people, in the middle of a pandemic, etc. That is the real coup we're talking about, not the fear-mongering coup that they're saying Trump is trying to push a coup, blah, blah, blah. That's not reality. That is a story they're spinning to get you to be scared and to get you to rely more on the establishment. And that's the real story here.
Yeah. So, Johnny, we're going to do this last story in 15 minutes, get out of here. So we have a nice 90-minute show. I don't want to dive too deeply into this next topic, what's going on. Let me just say this much, fam, right now. This is far from over when it comes to the election. I know there's been this narrative from the left somewhat that these court cases are dropping like flies and things aren't flowing well. And then Sidney Powell and her part in what she played. And even when we listened to the press conference the other day, we were just kind of taken back. I mean, I think Giuliani did a great job of laying everything out about their main case in which the way they're going to flip the election, if they can flip the election. It's the only way is through the scrutinizing, the lack of scrutiny of the signatures of the ballots in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, obviously Nevada and Arizona. Those are the areas where they're looking at and stuff. And they're going to try to go against these state laws. This is the only way they really have a chance, I think, of turning the election. As far as it goes for the vote flipping. Now, we know this. You can never obtain the data. When it comes to discovery, Johnny, you with Raji Robb, has he had the discovery he's been trying to get?
No, they haven't let him look into the machines, the tally machines at all.
Exactly. And when I spoke to Tim Canova and the cases he did and Benny Smith, they don't let you get in to look at the data, okay? It's almost impossible. Brent Turner, he talks about it with his movie. They don't let you look at the data. It's proprietary software, and we're never getting in to see that data. So there's been something going on where a lot of people think that Sidney Powell has been fired and the Trump campaign is distancing themselves from her. I don't believe that to be true. And in fact, I heard a theory the other day, and this is the statement from Sidney Powell right now, and I'm going to kind of walk through this and explain this, because let me say this much. You might not like Sidney Powell, you might not like Giuliani, but they're not dumb lawyers, fam. They've been doing this for a long time. And I know a lot of the progressives didn't pay attention to the Flynn case. When Sidney Powell came on, she blew that case open. She turned that whole case. Everything turned, and she used it by way of discovery, right? Discovery. And there's a lot of other places that talked about the discovery, but look what Sidney Powell said right here. I agree with the campaign statement that I am not part of the campaign's legal team. I never signed a retainer agreement or sent the president or campaign a bill for my expenses or fees. So she wasn't involved to go from the get-go. My intent has always been to expose all the fraud I can find and let the chips fall where they may, whether it be upon the Republicans or Democrats. The evidence I am compiling is overwhelming that this software tool was used to shift millions of votes from the president and other Republican candidates to Biden and other Democratic candidates. We are proceeding to prepare our lawsuit and plan to file this week. It will be epic, yada, yada, yada. We the people down below, cracking on steroids. If you want to help her out, send a few bucks. You can help out the case. So, fam, she never signed on whatsoever, which made me believe, and I was watching a couple of videos out there. I'm like, wow, because the comment that Hugo Chavez was so obscene. It was so absurd. Yeah. I was like, where the hell is this coming from?
Right. So real quick, so the point of view right now that I'm getting from a lot of the left and even some on the right is that this woman is crazy, that she is absolutely insane, so much so that the Trump administration has decided to distance themselves from her because she's just so crazy. Now, that is an interesting point of view, and I could see why people would have that. However, when she was talking about what she was talking, by the way, I don't like Rudy or her, she was the only one talking deeply about the machines, right? And even Tucker Carlson made a statement saying, oh, she didn't really give any proof or provide any evidence of the fraud claims that she was saying the machines were switching votes. That is a very, very bold statement to make, especially even though we know that happens. We literally have been talking about that for months. We know that happens for an official or a lawyer or somebody in that capacity to make a statement like that. That's going to send you a lot of backlash. People are going to say, well, where's your evidence? Well, if she said that and now they're trying to discount her, I'm just kind of like, what's going on here? Right?
Yeah, well, I was saying the same thing because I was so taken back and understanding, though, what happened, though, and I went back and I looked at the Roger Stone situation. Roger Stone was arrested and they were going to try to strike a plea deal.
Right.
And he says, nope, I'm going to court. What do you mean? You're going to risk going to jail for 9 years? Yep, I'm going to go to court. And the reason why he did that was he got into discovery. He can use all the evidence that they have to look through it and find it, look through emails, through texts, and that's what he did. He actually exposed Strzok and McCabe. Now, when it comes to Stone, Sidney Powell, Giuliani, these are well-seasoned lawyers, fam. You might not like them, but the reason why I hated Giuliani growing up was because he took down the mob. Some of the biggest lawyers were going after him, and that success led him to his elected offices in New York, okay? So he knows what he's doing. These guys are crafty. You know what I'm saying? They're not dumb. So I'm not just going to put it away like Sidney Powell is just some stupid idiot saying these things, because I saw a theory, and we watched the Duran the other day, and it kind of made sense to me. And I was talking back with Tim Canova about it. I was like, wow. So here's the theory they had right now and what's going on. And just listen to their theory real quick. We'll cut through these two videos real quick. And then we'll also, Sidney Powell is also, once again, she's there to stir up the masses. She's there to keep the masses and the base going. And if you look on Parler, they're going nuts for Sidney Powell and Roger Stone. They're really, really getting the base going. But interesting. But take a look at this right here. Oh, are you going right to the last one? Well, let me just tell you what the Duran said. So we'll skip over the videos. Yeah, well, it was just, there was pieces of the Duran, but it's okay. What the Duran said is that, yeah. Oh, we're ready? Oh, my bad. Okay, so here's from the Duran. Here's the theory. My bad.
What I will also say is that I do wonder whether part of what her strategy may be is to goad Dominion into bringing legal action against her. Because, as has been pointed out by Jonathan Turley, some of the things that she was saying against Dominion, if they are untrue, are defamatory. If Dominion wants to clear its name, it should logically be bringing lawsuits against her. Remember, that will open them up to the disclosure, the discovery process, which would be extremely useful. It would enable her to go in and start getting, in evidence out of them and get court orders to produce evidence out of them. High risk strategy, obviously, very high risk, but it is a possible way forward. Alternatively, if Dominion doesn't do it, if they don't bring defamation proceedings against Sidney Powell, well, then, of course, that begs the question, why? Why are they not bringing those defamation proceedings, given that she went out of her way on Thursday to say all those things about them, about basically accuse them of being involved in a conspiracy to steal the election? So one wonders, well, why Dominion is playing its cards so close to its chest, and why, if it is lawing up, it isn't acting rather more vigorously than it has been acting. So lots of unanswered.
So, fam, there's a theory right there. And I didn't think about this theory. It's like, because we've been so obsessed, Johnny and I have been talking about it. We talked to Raji. You can't get to discovery. And every single time I've talked to any expert, it's like, no, every single time they get close to maybe looking at the software, the rug's pulled out from underneath them. If she goaded Dominion into going into a defamation lawsuit, she then gets discovery. She's like, well, I got to see everything there that you have to prove my case against you. And that's why Dominion isn't taking the bait. We know these people. First of all, she's even pointed out, and the language that Sidney Powell has been using has been so, what's the word I'm looking for, beneficial to educating the populace on what goes on with these tabulation machines. She's using words like feature. I mean, if you went back and you see some of these last reports, she goes, if you look in their book, this will tell you this is a feature they have in there. They're using fractional stuff. She mentioned fractional stuff in there. She mentioned the fact that you can't even find out who the main owners are in this, because not only is their software proprietary, their ownership is proprietary. What are they hiding? So that is why she was never been part of the campaign. I think if she said that part of the campaign, Dominion can go after the whole campaign and all the lawyers. But if she does it by herself, flying solo, they can only go after her. Now, she's not going to be part of the main case of what they're trying to flip this election on, and that's the scrutiny of the ballots. That's what Giuliani's concentrating on. That's what his team's going to do. She's going to go around. She's going to do her individual cases, and she's going to go after elected officials who took money from Dominion, and then she's going to set a narrative for the public to see. So they are working in contingent with each other, and I don't think that people should just blow it off that she's that stupid and crazy, because I was even taken back. I'm like, what the hell is she talking about, Hugo Chavez? This is a ridiculous claim here.
Yeah.
Maybe she was trying to go them into defamation. I don't know, fam.
Well, yeah, and that's a good point. What's his name made that that if Dominion had nothing to hide, they would be suing her for defamation really rigorously and quickly. But clearly, they have things that, we just spoke with Whitney Webb about PARASCRIPT. I mean, these machines in general are owned by corporate private entities, and we can't look into the machines. We can't get anywhere near them. So what she actually said, and what really irritates me, Pasta, is unfortunately, she could be saying a lot of right things, but a lot of people aren't listening because they don't like Trump, because it's the right, because blah, blah, blah. So they're like, oh, she's just crazy. Even Trump, they're even saying, even Trump doesn't want anything to do with her because of her conspiracy theories. Guys, it's not a conspiracy theory that these machines could be hacked and that these numbers can be flipped. Literally, we've interviewed, I don't know how many people that have told you that. Yeah. That's not a conspiracy theory. That is a fact. It can absolutely happen. We've interviewed people on both sides of the aisle who agree on that. Yeah. Literally, Clint Curtis, this was a Biden supporter, a Democrat, said that all it takes is to write a program and you can easily make those numbers do whatever it is you want. Then we had Benny Smith say something similar, and then you had Dr. Shiva on. I mean, these are people from all sides of the political spectrum saying what she's saying. Stop letting your hatred and your ideology blind you from what's happening here. This isn't conspiracy. They want you to think it's conspiracy, so you completely stop questioning the fact that we don't have democratic elections in this country, and so you accept what you've been given. And it's really sad because I agree. I mean, there's something more here.
Yeah.
We need to look beneath the surface stories that we're getting.
Yeah, then listen, they're no dummies. You might not like Giuliani, but they're no dummies, okay, guys? They know what they're doing. They've been doing this shit for a long time. And just recently, and we don't have to play this clip over here, Johnny. We'll skip this clip and go to the last one. But pretty much they just reiterate that she did this before. She went into the Flynn case. She pretty much said the judge should recuse himself. You know what I'm saying? Then she used her discovery to bring information to light about Obamagate, about the memos and all this other stuff. Same thing with Roger Stone. He exposed Peter Strzok and Lisa Page and the Russian troll farm. I don't know if you remember this, but the Russian troll farm that Mueller indicted, he said, these are the people who are guilty. Well, they showed up in court and they were caught off guard. They kicked the court date back because the Mueller team didn't know what was going on. They didn't expect this troll farm to show up, representation. And then they said, we want to proceed. And they said, well, let's go into discovery. They dropped the whole case. They're like, we're not letting you look at our shit here. Because
discovery means, for the audience that doesn't know what discovery means, it's you can look into all
everything.
The things that are
memos, emails, whatnot. You have to see all the information has to be made available. Roger Stone used it to his advantage. Sidney Powell used it to her advantage. So to look at this theory and say, maybe this is true, because now if they do go after the defamatory case against her, now she can go see the evidence. We can finally see the software that we can never see. But if they don't, now she sets the narrative. What are they hiding? Why are they letting me saying this stuff? It must be true.
It is a chess move. It's interesting that this is happening on the right.
Last clip, fam, because here's something too. And I said she's also there to rile up the base. The crack and stuff, it keeps the base energized and going. She's also messing with progressives. And now you were here, Johnny was here. We know this off the record to be true. And just play this clip right here and watch what she says.
That's what it's designed to do. Their own handbook tells you that these things are features of their system. Right. Are we supposed to think they didn't use the features? Heck no, they used them. And they used them against their own candidates. The Democrats used them against Bernie Sanders in 2016. And somebody even told him what had been done to him when Hillary Clinton won that primary, and he didn't. And instead of standing up for the American people and the right to vote, he sold out.
You're saying Dominion, the Smartmatic Dominion system was used in 2016 when Hillary beat Bernie in the primary?
Yes.
Wow. I don't think we had heard that yet.
We've heard it.
That's an incredible development right there. And you say he knows that. Bernie Sanders knows that.
Yes, the person who sent me the data told me that they informed Bernie Sanders of all their findings, and he didn't do anything except get enough money to buy another fabulous house.
You can stop it right there. She gets her little back.
She gets her little right wing.
A little right wing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but let me tell you something, fam. Is this true? Did Bernie Sanders have the? And who uses Smartmatic? What does Los Angeles use, Johnny, to tabulate our stuff?
Smartmatic.
You better believe it. You better believe it. Johnny knows. He's caught these things. And that was it. We saw that in 2016. It was I came out in 2016. I was in Florida at the time. I came out for the primary. I remember him getting on the stage just looking confusing, like these numbers can't be right. He was, we're going to fight for all the numbers, because they were saying something's not right here. Yeah. Something is going on. Just tell the people, we'll get back. We're going to count all the votes. And then as we went through this process, right, all of a sudden, counties started flipping. Counties started flipping back to Bernie Sanders weeks and weeks after the election. But once again, we've heard people say that they've taken this information to Bernie Sanders in 2016, in 2020. They had all the resources. They wanted to seize the data, get in there, and protest these elections. Yeah. And he didn't do it, fam.
We interviewed several people who actually said that on
off
air.
The record, some of them said it.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. They definitely said, we went to Bernie. We gave him all this information. He didn't do anything with it, whether he believed it or not, whether there are other forces there that aren't going to, let somebody, especially like him, get into power, which I believe is partly true. What I believe is that all of this is just not, I think there are forces in there that aren't going to allow this to happen, because I think you need the people to actually be on board with this. And there's just not there, it can't be, a partisan thing. It's got to be literally everybody demanding, okay, we need to fix our elections. We need to look into this machines. We need to have an autopsy of what actually has been happening in these last elections. We need to know that to know how to proceed further.
Yep.
You know,
Move
it is that TV doctor in me, fam, that is saying you need to have an autopsy in order to protect your next patient, fam.
Yes.
Like you can't just continue doing this, going in blind. You're never gonna find where that bleed is coming from, and that's what we need to look at. But we can't do that if people are spewing this as a conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
it's so important to look at all these things. I'm not saying this is entirely 100% certain, but I am saying we have to question the official narratives that get put out there, because remember, everything is about manipulating people and emotions and all this other crap. You got to sift through the garbage and actually find the gold.
Yeah, fam, thank you so much for saying that, because I think it's important moving forward. We need the autopsy. Stop trying to brush this off and saying Trump is just being stupid and stuff. No, we have systemic issues with our elections. We need to fix them. And like we said this before, the tools that they're using to cheat Trump, they used against Bernie Sanders to cheat him too. He talked about provisionals the other day. Yeah. You know what a provisional is? Like, nobody knows. Like, we know. We go crazy about these things. We've been talking about these things for so long. So we need to use this time right now to have whatever type of autopsy they'll give us through the courts and really get in there and make sure we change our ways in these elections. We should have no proprietary software in all our public-funded tabulation machines. If anything, even Dr. Shiva said he wants to eliminate. Let's get civics back into the high schools, and if we have to do it on a local level, let's sit down, let's count these things. They'd rather count them than use open source, than use proprietary software if they're not going to get open source, because we don't need Big Brother telling us what's what. What goes in doesn't necessarily come out, and they do it to cheat the progressives.
They're already telling us, too, what's up, too.
Yeah, so we got, Johnny, anything else to finish up with? All right, guys. That was a nice 90-minute show, like 92 minutes or something. We want to thank you so much for joining on in. Go over to our Rokfin, Rokfin. It came up a little late, but it's there. What's up, Fred Edward? What's up, Pasta Whatnot, Jardula, and Devo, and all you beautiful people over there on the Rokfin? If you got extra $9.99 to endorse us, you get all premium content across the board. Thank you for all of you who joined in to YouTube today, and to all our Patreons. For Pasta Jardula,
Fee,
Johnny Sue,
Convo out.
Peace.